Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with Week 15. Last week was not a particularly good week for me. I went 8-6, which brings my total record to 134-73. And we only have just 4 weeks left into the season. And finally, at last, we have some playoff clinching scenarios. And we're going to get into those in a bit. But first, let's start off with Thursday Night Football with the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Falcons, ugly showing against the Seattle Seahawks, but at least Kyle Pitts had a decent game for once. They'll be taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also on the losing end, this time losing to the New Orleans Saints, where the Bucs just basically lost on their own mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes in that game. But looking at this one, back at home, taking on a slumping Falcons team, I'm going to go ahead and take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game. Here we go. I'm taking the Bucs to win this game. And for the Falcon fans, just 3 more weeks of Raheem Morris. Then we have the Cleveland Browns taking on the Chicago Bears. The Browns became the second team to lose to the Tennessee Titans, while the Bears, their little winning streak came to an end against their division rivals, Green Bay Packers. I felt like for the Bears, this is a perfect game in betwixt, both Packers games. They could finally get, after taking an L, they could regroup and then come back next Saturday and refocus to take on the Green Bay Packers. And in this matchup, I mean, come on. Yes, Myles Garrett is a beast, but the Browns defense did not have a particularly good day last week. I think the Bears is going to bounce back and get the win, and it'll be one step closer to that wild card spot. Following that, we got an AFC West showdown between the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll be doing this prediction in English this time. Yes, the last time we saw these two teams was in Brazil, week 1. Chargers came out on top. But last week, the Chargers got an overtime victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, where that Sully, I'll tell you, he had a performance of the day. I think he scored a touchdown. He had all the team's interceptions. He had a sack. And he was just a dominant force who deserves a contract. Meanwhile, for the Chiefs, all things fall apart. And normally I don't talk about playoff eliminating scenarios, but the Chiefs actually has one of those this week. Because if they lose, and Buffalo wins, Jacksonville wins, and Houston wins, Kansas City will be eliminated from postseason contention. That is just crazy for me to hear about. But looking at this game, I don't know if I should take the Chiefs on desperation again, given that we're not used to seeing the Chiefs being this down bad, especially this late in the season. We know the division is out the question, but looking at the remaining schedule, they have a shot to run the table. But for now, I'm just gonna go. I'm kind of torn on this one. Yeah, this one actually might be one of the harder games to predict this week. But I'm gonna go ahead. They're at home. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Chiefs for now, only because I was not impressed with Justin Herbert on Monday night. Granted, his hand injury did hold him back, so I'm just gonna roll with the Chiefs for now. Then we have a rematch of Thanksgiving where the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Two teams that I'm pretty much about done with, because the Ravens once again lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lamar was not particularly good, and there were some questionable decisions in that game that might have helped out with the results. Meanwhile, Cincinnati scored 34 points, and tell me if you heard this story before. They still lost to the Buffalo Bills, and their season's pretty much all but done. I mean, they might put up good performances for pride or anything, but as for playoff berths and playoff stabilities, I think that's pretty much done. And looking at this game, I'm actually gonna go ahead and take the Ravens, because normally when a team plays each other twice in 3 weeks, it's pretty hard to beat a team twice in twice in 3 weeks. And although recent history has definitely came into question when regarding to that. But for now, I am taking the Ravens. I am sensing desperation for them. But their offense is going to have to get something going. And quickly. And then we have... You got the Washington Commanders taking on the New York Giants. Okay, somebody's going to have to win. Well, the Commanders got shut out by the Vikings. Jaden Daniels once again re-aggravated his elbow. They really are. They did it. They RG3'd his career, dude. And Zach Ertz, he tore his ACL, so he won't be available. So basically, Washington, they just really want the season to end before any more major injuries come to play. Then we take it on the New York Giants, fresh off a bye week. But let's be real, the Giants are awful football team. Y'all all know this. And looking at this game, I'll just be quick. I'm going to take the New York Giants to win. I'm taking the Giants to win. And because this might be one of the last chances I get to pick the Giants to win anything. Well, except for in 2 weeks. But we'll get to that when we get there. And then we got two teams that are actually falling apart, but in different facets. We have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Raiders losing to the Broncos, but it was not really that interesting. I think they pretty much gave up on the season and then ready to move on to the offseason. They already booked their vacations to Cancun. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles, they lost their third straight game, this time to the Los Angeles Chargers, where the Eagles had 5 turnovers. And two of them, particularly all of them from Jalen Hurts, and two of them came on one play. So much that it broke the Disney Monsters Inc. broadcast for a bit. Yeah, but it's safe to say the Eagles are in a bit of a mess right now. Many people thinking the offensive distractions is holding this team back, and this is despite their defense being, well, one of the better units in the league. I still think their defense is great. But fortunately for them, they got playing on a tanking Raiders team, so this is the perfect game for them to get back on track. I'm going to go ahead and take the Eagles to win this game. I think they shouldn't have a problem playing up to their abilities, but if they were to lose to the Raiders, they need to pack the season up. Then we got a game where in historically terms is normally a tank bowl, but instead one team's actually pretty good. That's the New York Jets taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars picked up a huge division win over the Indianapolis Colts. And the Jets, they were pretty ugly against the Miami Dolphins. I don't think there's no other sexier terms. And once again, oh yeah, another thing. Tyrod Taylor got hurt again. So we might see Justin Fields again. We could be seeing Brady Cook in at quarterback. Who knows? But things are not going well for the Jets. I am taking the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game. They shouldn't have a problem here as they begin to strengthen its grip on the AFC South. As long as Houston doesn't come and steal the division behind their backs. And speaking of Houston, they're taking on the Arizona Cardinals. As the Cardinals, they lost again to the Rams. What else is new? And for the Texans, they coming off probably their best game of the season, beating the Kansas City Chiefs, avenging the division round loss that they had last year. And for the Texans, they're a team you don't want to face right now. That defense is monstrous. It's scary. And I think and I've read something that said the last 3 or 4 games, they only given up 3 points in the fourth quarter in the last 3 or 4 games. That is just insanely good how this defense is. So kudos to DeMeco Ryans. Offense, well, they still just got some things to work out. But again, they're a team nobody wants to face at this point. I think against Arizona Cardinals, aka the J.J. Watt Bowl, they shouldn't be a problem here. And then we got a pretty good matchup here with the Green Bay Packers taking on the Denver Broncos, aka the Grossi Perner Bowl. I think this is the 3rd iteration of this, if you count the preseason. If not, it'll be just a second. So we know that both live streams are going to be madness when that time comes. Packers picked up the division. Both teams picked up division wins, with the Packers getting a win over the Bears and the Broncos beating up on the Raiders. And there was nothing too sexy out of the ordinary. They were just well quality standard victories. So looking at this game, yeah, this one is actually a tough one to pick. I'm not gonna lie. And I've actually gone back and forth with this one. And while I was gonna take the Broncos to win, so they could keep pace with the number one seed in the AFC, I'm actually going back to Green Bay because I think Green Bay is starting to hit their stride a bit. They're coming off of two of their best victories of the last 2 weeks with the Lions and Bears, respectively. And if they could get a road win over the Broncos, that would be huge for their playoff hopes. But oh yeah, by the way, there is a playoff clinching scenario with the Broncos because they could get in with the win. But as my prediction shows, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen this week, but it's gonna happen at some point. And then we got the Matthew Stafford Bowl, where the Detroit Lions take on the Los Angeles Rams, or I should have called it the Jared Goff Bowl. Lions picked up a win over the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. The running game got back on track. The offense just looked back to normal. Meanwhile, they'll be taking on the Rams, where the Rams got back on track against the Cardinals, and that's pretty easy to do. And for the Rams, there's a playoff clinching scenario for them. Because if they beat the Lions, they're in. They'll become the first team in the NFC to clinch a playoff spot. And me thinking the Rams are the best team I think the Rams is the best team in both the NFC and the AFC. They're the best team in the league. I do think this is going to be a fun battle. Too bad my area won't be able to get the game, but I am going to take the Rams. And you want to know why my area won't be, where I'm from, will not be getting this game? It's because of this. We got the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Panthers coming off a bye week, but the last time we saw them, they picked up a stunning victory over the Los Angeles Rams, a game where there were 10-point underdogs against at one point. And they'll be taking on the Saints, where they also picked up a win. They picked up a win over they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they were able to capitalize on Baker Mayfield's mistakes and turnovers. And people don't forget, people remember, last time we saw these two teams, it was the Saints that came out on top with the victory. And I think looking at this game, I know the Panthers want them back and want them back bad. They're coming off a bye week. They got a chance to heal up, get players back from suspension. Hopefully J.C. Horn is cleared from concussion protocol at this point. And I'm going to pick the Carolina Panthers to win. Hopefully the offense can get back, could stay in sync. And if they can get this win, their next 3 games are going to be telling them where the future holds for them. Then we have a team that's trash and a team that's always injured. The Tennessee Titans take on the San Francisco 49ers. Titans, they actually won a game. And normally winning for them, I normally won't praise bad teams winning this late, but for them, I'm actually kind of proud of them. Going on the road, beating up on a Cleveland Browns team that supposedly have a good defense, doing so with the running game at that. Tony Pollard had a strong game. And yeah, I'm actually kind of happy for the Tennessee Titans. It makes the number 1 overall pick race that much more interesting. I know the Titans don't want the number 1 overall pick because they don't need it. There's no need for them to get a quarterback. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, they're coming off a bye week. But the last time we saw them, they picked up a win over Cleveland Browns. So both of these teams are the last 2 teams to beat the Browns at this point. But in this game, yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think they're going to be back to normal. Coming off a bye week, they too had a chance to heal up get ready for the late season push. I'm going with the 49ers to win. And then, oh, how things can change. You got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Colts lost their 3rd straight game, 2nd straight in the division against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it came at a huge cost. Daniel Jones has tore his Achilles. He's now gone for the season. Riley Leonard, he is in line to start. However, he too is battling a knee injury. And Anthony Richardson, he's still on IR. So, in desperate times, they decide to sign a 44-year-old grandpa. I'm not making this up. Philip Rivers is a grandfather now. He's on their practice squad as insurance. That is just crazy. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Seahawks, they picked up a win over the Atlanta Falcons. They started off the game a little slow, but they picked it up in the second half. And like with the Texans, they're a team you don't want to face. And because the circumstances with the Colts, I think Seattle should take care of this one easily. And it'll set us up with a oh so pivotal Thursday night matchup with the Rams. And then we got a Sunday night football matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys. Vikings, okay, 2 weeks ago they got shut out by Seattle 26-0. But next week, they the ones that pushed a shutout against the Washington Commanders. I guess hurt people hurt people. And it was the first home win for JJ McCarthy, and it is the first game in which JJ McCarthy did not throw an interception. That's a double win. They'll be taking on the Dallas Cowboys, where they did suffer a tough loss, a setback loss with the Detroit Lions. I feel like they were always a step behind them in that game. And they did most of it without CeeDee Lamb, who as of now is, I have not got word if he's in concussion protocol or out. Who knows what his status is going to be heading into Sunday night. But looking at this game, I actually think this one could go in any direction. Because Cowboys defense has been better, but still an inconsistent mess. They are expected to get Trayvon Diggs back. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But taking a look at this game, I'm actually going to go ahead and pick the Dallas Cowboys to win. I just trust their offense, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, to get things going for them a little more, regardless of what their defense is going to be. But this has a chance to be one of the fun games of the week. And, and then we have Monday Night Football, where the Miami Dolphins will be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dolphins' win streak continued, this time against the New York Jets, completing the season sweep. Again, that's not really that hard to do. They'll be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who also ended their losing streak, beating the Ravens, and this time they opened up the passing game. They took shots downfield. DK Metcalf, he had a strong game. And now the path to 9-8 is all but theirs, especially with their remaining schedule they got left. But taking a look at this game, it's going to be played in Pittsburgh. I do think the Dolphins have a chance to extend their winning streak. I'm not that confident in them. In this particular game, I'm going to go ahead and take the Pittsburgh Steelers to get a primetime victory. Because one thing, and that's another thing, one thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers, all their wins came in the 1 o'clock slate. I think they're like 6-1. I think they're winless in all the other games they played outside of the 1 o'clock slate. So I'm actually taking a chance at a reverse fate. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers to win. And then my game of the week, which is actually a surprising pick for me, the Buffalo Bills taking on the New England Patriots. And for the Bills, they picked up a win over the Cincinnati Bengals. They actually got off to a pretty ugly start, but I think a pick six was what changed the fortunes for the Buffalo Bills to get things done. And Josh Allen, once again, went superhuman. They'll be taking on the New England Patriots, coming off a bye, but they won 8 straight games at this point. Granted, some of their opponents have been cupcakes, but you play what you're scheduled. And looking at this game, I know these last time the two teams faced off was in Week 5, Sunday Night Football, where the Patriots eked out a win. A surprisingly road victory in Buffalo at that. And yeah, I think the Patriots are scary good. I think they're the best team in the AFC. Goes to show you how much Mike Vrabel is a good coach in this league. But in this one, okay, we have a scenario here. New England, if they win this game, the AFC East is theirs. They clinched the division and a spot in the playoffs. But if the Bills win, they keep that hope alive. And looking at this game, oh boy, this is a tough one to pick. I'm gonna go ahead and pick New England because they're at home. But if the Bills win, I will be the least bit surprised. All I'm saying. And that will wrap up Week 15 NFL predictions. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely, and I'll see you next time. But before we leave, we actually do have to pay homage to the Cleveland Browns as they recently joined the AFC in getting eliminated. And for the NFC, we have the Commanders and the Falcons both getting eliminated from postseason contention. And now this wraps up this video. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely, and I'll see you next time.